Well, let's start with the big story of the day. U.S. President Donald Trump is on a historic visit to China, with Air Force One touching down in the country last evening alongside a heavyweight delegation of the top tech and business leaders. In a few minutes from now, we are learning that U.S. President Donald Trump will be meeting with the Chinese counterpart to discuss a range of issues, including tech, trade and Taiwan. It is going to be a historic summit. The tone that they set over the next 2 days of the meeting could dictate the course of the relationship between the world's two largest economies for years to come. So what could this unexpected outreach between the two long-standing rivals really mean, not just for the two countries, that is US and China, but also for our country? We'll decode that big diplomatic reset, the power play behind this summit, and why New Delhi is watching this very closely. But before that, let's take a look at the big business faces who are accompanying Donald Trump. But those are the live visuals coming in from China, is what we're learning so far. In fact, in just some time, the two leaders will be meeting there in Beijing. Let me go across to our consulting editor, Srinjoy Chaudhary. Good morning, Srinjoy. In fact, in just some time, we're learning that Donald Trump will be meeting with the Chinese counterpart, the Chinese president, for a high-stakes summit. Tell us why this is significant and what can be expected to be discussed.
In any case, when the world's largest economy and the world's second largest economy are coming together and their two leaders are meeting, it's important enough. But in this case, this is China and America. And America is at war with one of China's closest friends and allies, Iran. Now, Iran supplies 13% of all the oil that China, the factory of the world, needs. Now, this 13% is a huge amount. And because of the war, every day China is losing millions and millions of dollars because the oil prices have gone up. Iran, for instance, used to supply oil that came at a cheaper price, that was discounted by $8 or $10. And now China has to buy the same oil or from Russia or other countries or Saudi at high rates. Now this is clearly worrying China. This is one issue. Then there is this issue that relates to tariffs. Now America put tariffs on China and then pulled it back, put more tariffs, pulled it back. There has not been a long-term view on this. Again, this is something China is unhappy about. Then America is unhappy about China's aggression, and that's affecting America's allies, whether it's Japan, Philippines, South Korea, and so on. So there is a lot to talk about, and a lot of hard talk will happen when Xi Jinping meets Donald Trump.
All right, so let's keep our focus on the live visuals that are coming in from the high-stakes US-China summit, where, in fact, US President Donald Trump is meeting with the Chinese counterpart amid the intense global focus on trade, technology, tariff, and also geopolitical tensions, the war in West Asia as well. And the atmosphere, as you can see inside the venue, that is being watched very closely from across the world capitals, financial markets, and diplomatic circles, as two sides are now engaging in what could become one of the most important face-to-face engagement between US and China in the recent times. As you can see in the visuals, senior officials and the top business leaders, they are also part of the wider engagement. In fact, several of the top business leaders, they have also gone along with Donald Trump to China, underlining the economic stakes attached to this crucial summit there in China. The meeting comes at a time when both the countries are navigating sharp differences over the trade policy, semiconductor access, the manufacturing dominance, artificial intelligence, supply chains as well, most importantly, and influence across the Indo-Pacific. So as you can see in the visuals, where US President Donald Trump is seen meeting with the Chinese counterpart amid the intense global focus on trade, technology, tariff, and geopolitical tensions. Let me also bring in my colleague Mayank on this. Mayank, we are keeping our focus on the visuals that are coming in from China, but let's talk more about the visit of President Donald Trump, because once he touted his very good chemistry with Chinese leader there during a state visit to China for the first term in 2017, and that was in 2017. However, things look very different now. Give us more details on this.
下，中国人民解放军仪仗队列仪完毕，请您检阅。
Well, those were the live visuals coming in from the US-China summit, where US President Donald Trump is meeting with his Chinese counterpart at a time of the intense global economic and geopolitical uncertainty. What you just saw in the visuals, in fact, were Chinese leader and greeting the President Donald Trump with a handshake ahead of the meeting at the Great Hall of the People there in China. And this is the first meeting between the two leaders since Donald Trump touched down in China on Wednesday night local time. And he was greeted by the Chinese officials and hundreds of the flag-waving children there. They last saw each other in October on the sidelines of the international summit in South Korea, where they agreed to a trade deal as well. But at this point in time, all eyes will be on the crucial summit and the conversation between the two leaders. They are set to discuss the issues regarding trade, tech, and also Iran during today's crucial meeting. Let me once again bring in my colleague Srinjoy on this. Srinjoy, shed light on the key issues that could be discussed during this crucial summit and the conversation between the two leaders. And the timing is also quite important, because this also comes in the backdrop of the war of US with Iran, a close ally of China.
Undoubtedly, first point, of course, remains the war. And when you look at the war, it's not just the war. It's the supply of oil to China. And 13%, that's a huge number, 13% of oil that China, the factory of the oil, used before the war began, came from Iran. And that came discounted, in the sense the Iranian oil was $8 to $10 cheaper than the world prices. Now, China benefited from it. Also, Venezuela, every day about half a million tons of barrels of oil came from Venezuela. That has stopped almost. So as a result, and this oil too was discounted, China is having to pay very large sums of money for its oil. And naturally, when it exports things, those things will be more expensive. That's one issue. Then there is this enduring issue between China and America that relates to tariffs. America imposes tariffs on Chinese goods, takes it back, imposes it again, takes it back, threatens, doesn't threaten, all of that. That has to be settled once and for all. And once again, that is an issue that is on the table. The third, of course, relates to Chinese aggression, which is perceived or real, depending on which side you are. The countries suffering are Japan, South Korea, Philippines, most certainly, and one or two other countries. Now, this is something America doesn't like, because Japan, South Korea, Philippines, they are all allies of the Americans. Now, they don't want their allies to be troubled. So all of this leads to a lot for discussion. The world's largest importer and the world's largest exporter, the world's largest economy, the world's second largest economy, the world's largest military power of all time, one of the largest military powers in recent times. So that is America, that is China. So it's a matchup, and it's an important meeting, because of the future of the world. The future of the world's economy will depend on this meeting.
Absolutely, and it is going to be a very historic summit. The tone that they set for the next 2 days of the meeting would dictate the course of the relationship between the world's largest economies for the years to come. I want to bring in my colleague Mayank on this. Mayank, to shed light on the meeting that the two leaders had in 2017 as well, but that was 2017, and that time around Donald Trump has said that he's had a very good chemistry with the Chinese leader, but a lot has changed in the last 9 years. Things look very different at this point in time. Do shed some light on this as well.
Yes. I mean, let me underline again what you've already said, is that a lot of things have changed by now. Right. And that it is not only between the two nations, but the entire globe and at the multilateral level also. So Having said that, it is important to understand that the China comes important as an important player when it comes to West Asia also, which is right now is a bigger overhang. And as apart from Taiwan and the way the things are in terms of trade is going on. Because see, China has been playing a significant role as far as the supply of rare earth material to US is concerned. A lot of finished products which comes from China to US, that is also the part of it. And a major manufacturing aspect is related to the fuel security, which already has been brought out by our colleague Sanjoy. That is also part of it. So what we see is actually things have changed, and West Asia in particular has brought in things which are which become very important, because not only is President Donald Trump talking about, and Marco Rubio himself has made a statement as far as things are concerned, and there's a plan which has been already reported about. Is there is a plan between China and US to be discussed on West Asia in particular on a larger level. So this is how the things have changed, and the overhang has changed.
Absolutely, a lot has changed in the last 9 years, and today all eyes will be on the crucial meeting between the two world leaders. Thank you so much, Shinjoy and Mayank, for getting us all those details. With this, a very short break.